Welcome back, everyone. Now we'd like to welcome Colonel Brent Hayden, Director of the Tyndall Program Management Office. Colonel Hayden has been serving here since February. He oversees the day-to-day operations of the rebuild. He's on temporary duty here from the Pentagon, where he worked on assignment to the Office of the Secretary of Defense, implementing business reforms for the Department of Defense in support of the 2018 National Defense Strategy. Colonel Hayden will be briefing us on the current Tyndall installation plan. Please welcome Colonel Hayden.
Good morning. The challenge about getting old is I don't have the depth and vision anymore. I can either look at you or I can look at my notes. So my glasses will probably come on and off a lot, and you'll figure out where I'm looking at the. That'll be the cue. Mr. Henderson, thank you very much for your engagement, your vision, working with Dr. Wilson and giving us the guidance for the vision across the Air Force on installations and the specific application here at Tyndall of that same vision. Ms. Estep, Mr. Edwards, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here and your trust in me and to lead this team, large team that's Air Force-wide with the PMO on site. General Melanson, General Allen, I really appreciate you both specifically saying, Brent, you're our guy. You got the resume, the skill set to come and lead the team. There's a lot of other people in this room that I owe thanks to, our Corps of Engineers partners. I'm not going to go down that list because I'm going to miss some. I am going to acknowledge one person in this room whose heart and soul is the reason why Tyndall is as far recovered as it is today. Colonel Laidlaw, who you heard from before, and he doesn't want me to recognize him, I guarantee, because he's humble and he doesn't want to put himself out there like that, but he has been the heart and soul driving. I tell you, I've been working with him daily since getting here, and I am truly impressed by this pilot that truly cares about the installation that is and Tyndall will become. My hat's off to you, sir. I have two briefs to you today. The first of these is the what. An update on the master planning, the installation development plan. The second brief, after I sit down, General Melanson comes up in between. The second brief will be talking about the how. The acquisitions and the different opportunities, the specific opportunities for your engagement. So specifically on this brief, this is a welcome opportunity for me to talk to you. Got to look down. Talk to you about what we've been doing at the PMO thus far. And most importantly, talk about how this feeds where we're going and what opportunities you'll have to participate in the reconstruction process. You were all very aware, you've heard people talk today, that our senior leaders have asked us to rebuild Tyndall, not the base we had, but the base we need, a digitally integrated air base for the 21st century. You may have heard this referred to also as the installation of the future. I have a unique perspective on this. In a previous job, not all that long ago, I worked on the installation of the future team at Headquarters Air Force. In that role, we researched a lot of great ideas, found some truly promising technologies that could be broadly implemented across the Air Force inventory to save money, drive efficiencies, make our installations more effective. Biggest challenge of that was that most of these ideas take investment capital, which we simply don't have, simply haven't been able to come up with. Bottom line is that we don't have the capital in the Air Force to rebuild installations that are old, expensive to maintain, but are still working just well enough to fly airplanes out of. Nowhere but at Tyndall. This is a unique opportunity to do something different and innovative and show what a digitally integrated airbase platform, integrated weapons system can be. So for me, it's been really easy to get on board with the Chief of Staff's vision for Tyndall. This is our opportunity to build the digitally integrated air base for the 21st century. Okay, this brings us to today. I'm going to contrast Tyndall with, say, Camp Lejeune, the Marines. I'm with you. So the Marines intend to build more or less the same facilities they had on existing foundations. I don't want to misrepresent their position, but so they have a mission that's been there for, I'd say 100 years, but I'm sure it's quite longer than that. And they're going to continue doing that same mission. There's some very good reasons why they're rebuilding the same things. They came up with a program long before we did. And I say program, I mean fully developed 1391 so they could give Congress and say, this is what we want to build. So right now we're six and a half months after the hurricane. And so there's some very good reasons why we haven't been able to talk specifics on the program and on acquisitions until now. That'll be my second brief today. I'll note that our team delivered front page 1391s to congressional staffers 2 weeks ago today, which included much more robust and well-developed project descriptions than we've been able to communicate previously. I submit that given our leaders' visionary goals, the planning process, as we have applied it here, has been extremely aggressive. For a normal product like this, the Air Force spends about 18 months start to finish. For this rebuild, we completed 3 major analytic products in less than a third of that time. We started sprinting on requirements development before the planning projects in this part of the brief got to maturity. Trust me, there's a lot of process rigor here. Figuring out how to save what facilities we could, which facilities we could save, how best to use them in the master plan took time. I'm not really going to brief you on all that process. I'm going to ask you to trust me in that rigor. We went into that in the first industry day, and my slide after this will be a kind of a quick recap of that, but I don't want to go into depth. What is important about these planning outputs is that we're not missing the opportunity presented by an absolutely devastating Category 5 hurricane to redefine Tyndall. And we're doing this rebuild right. Okay, super quick recap of the planning process for those that weren't here at the first industry day. We enlisted the help of one of our industry partners and awarded a planning contract in December to develop 3 planning districts. The contracted effort looked at these 3 areas. The flight line, I'm going to go to the side screen here. Get any feedback? You guys see the side screen at all? Yes, no? Okay, so flight line, it's labeled. Support district just south of that, separated by Highway 98. And the third master planning product looked at a section of the Crooked Island district, which was low elevation and experienced a lot of storm surge. We had a lot of, down there, we had a lot of labs from the Air Force Civil Engineer Center on that site. The support and flight line districts were the most densely populated, had the most facilities, and experienced the largest amount of damage. It is important to note on the slide, there were several other areas that looked at by in-house planning teams for redevelopment options. In addition to those, we have 2 parallel efforts ongoing, which are outside of the main master planning effort. The first of those is to restore the military family housing over in the Sabre District, which is being done by the privatized housing owner. And the second is to realign the installation fence line to open portions of the Sabre District outside development. This is kind of the planning notional line that we're looking at, where the public will have base access. That would enable a lot of partnership options, such as enhanced use leases, which will benefit the housing community as well as greater Panama City public. More on that later today in the EUL discussions. Air Force leadership early on established both the process and the planning guidance to ensure we plan for and then build the Tyndall we need, not the Tyndall we had. This slide has the key goals for the rebuild and articulates some of those initial ideas on just what the installation of the future should be here at Tyndall. Please note two key elements on this. A lot of people hear installation in the future and they hear expensive installation. That's really not what it's about. Two key elements on this slide talk about reducing costs. This is really important because the installation of the future is not about building a shiny, new, expensive air base. We absolutely are in a cost-constrained Air Force. The installation of the future is about incorporating modern technologies and techniques to reduce the total cost of ownership of our physical plant. Okay, the first of the layouts coming from the master plan. What we have on screen is the result of our robust planning process for the flight line side. One of the themes of the airfield development plan was to relocate functions which did not need direct access to the flight line to the support side of the base. The airfield is constrained by Highway 98 to the south, which limits development in that direction. Two organizations which we moved were the civil engineers and the logistics, vehicle maintenance and supply. Most of CE was destroyed, but we will actually be able to repair and repurpose a few of those logistics buildings. I'll start on the left and move to the right. The white buildings are existing buildings which are reused in our master plan. The tan ones are new facilities. The first set of buildings is the Air Operations Center. Right in there. Actually down there, off the flight line. Although the operations in that facility were shifted to another site during the hurricane, this complex suffered only minor damage, which has now been repaired and was actually able to resume operations shortly after the hurricane. The new flight line is arranged as a campus for each mission set that's coming in, anchored by the shared support functions in the middle. On the far left is the F-35 campus. Multiple hangars. We'll talk more details in the acquisition planning section or in the acquisition strategy section about specific facilities and about what's in these different campuses. This is a layout. Moving to the right, shared support and transient functions. And there's also ample space on the flight line for future development. You can see several green spaces in there. Moving additionally farther to the right, we have the WEG, or the Weapons Evaluation Group, the WEG, are the major primary enduring mission at Tyndall. Most of those facilities were very old. The new siding reuses the one F-22 hangar, which is savable. That's this one right here, hangar 43. The next group of facilities is the MQ-9 campus over in here. Prior to the hurricane, those had been penciled in to bed down at the drone runway, which is off the map to the east. By consolidating facilities and relocating non-airfield functions, we were able to provide additional space on the primary runway. The last mission at the far right is the Air Battle Manager School's MU-2s. It's over here. This is another enduring mission, but due to security and safety concerns with contracted aircraft, they cannot be located adjacent to the WEG. In summary, the pre-hurricane flight line had 163 buildings, with more than 50 of them aged over 50 years old. In the end, we saved about 40% of the buildings in this district. 97 buildings demolished will be replaced with about 39 new facilities. There's also a gate realignment down in here. Rolling forward to the support district. Support district differs from the flight line district in that we didn't significantly change either the customer set or the mission set. with the exception of added compatibility functions from the flight line side of the base. As mentioned, things that could move off the flight line, should move off the flight line, did move off the flight line. The other difference is there were several large, newer facilities which survived with minimum damage. These became the backbone of our layout plan. The damage was definitely less significant across the support side, and the newer buildings built to modern code fared much better. Retained buildings from left to right. 1st Air Force. Air Control Squadron, Schoolhouse. Education Center, up in here, and Medical. Mission Support Center, up here. And the Security Forces, Communications, NCO Academy, and the Wing Headquarters all through here. Commissary and Base Exchange, big rectangle in the middle. And the Fitness Center. Fitness Center is here. The dining hall here, and the Air Force Civil Engineer Center office spaces, primary office spaces for AFCEC East are all retained. What didn't survive Michael so well was the lodging, which had already been approved for replacement before the hurricane, nor the dormitories and 14 small administrative facilities that dated from the 1940s. We had an emphasis on consolidating into single facilities, as well as combining functions in order to promote compact and walkable campuses. By consolidating functions and some minor realignment of roads, we were able to make room for those relocated flight line functions, as well as provide for anticipated future requirements and preserve open space for those unknowns. This little peanut-shaped drive is the family support area, which has a lot of expansion capacity. It includes temporary lodging facilities, a youth center, and 2 child care centers. One of those is needed as part of the rebuild for the projected population, and the other facility may be used and may be needed in the future. The community core is anchored on the commissary, as pointed out before. That community core includes a new chapel complex, community commons, a bowling alley, U.S. post office, library, gathering spaces, and eating options. There is a pedestrian spine connecting the community center to the dorms as well as the industrial area, which is one of the key features that we wanted to bring in with the walkable campus, where you park your car and Airman parks his car. He lives in a dorm. He is able to walk or bike to work, access to food, gym, office, industrial space. Friday afternoon, takes his car and has his weekend. All good. The next area has dormitories. It's in here. Incorporating the newest dorms that we had already on, which survived relatively intact, as well as the fitness center and the dining hall, immediately to the south. The last area is the industrial functions relocated from the flight line side. This includes, as I mentioned, the LRS and the base civil engineer complexes. There is a reconfigured main gate here, in there. Modern force protection, base access. And FDOT is building an overpass for Highway 98 to go over Louisiana. This is Louisiana. FDOT's building an overpass that's actually starting construction very soon now. That was supposed to start about 2 weeks after the hurricane hit. They delayed it, and it's now going into construction here very soon. I want to say April, but it's no longer April. I will say that that reflects a key partnership with the Florida Department of Transportation. They're spending a lot of investment here. The state is very confident in what Tyndall is going to become, and their investment reflects a long-standing partnership. This, as mentioned, this FDOT project has been in the works for many years and is still intact. What this overpass enables, well, a lot of things, but it will enable airmen to walk or ride bicycles between their work on the flight line and their living spaces on the south side of 98. We'll also look at these areas in a little bit different way when we talk about acquisition strategy. So this area presented a little different problem set than the other two. I mentioned the Crooked Island, the research facilities for the Air Force Civil Engineer Center, which really didn't fare well because of the low-lying area. It was really not an option to rebuild anywhere near on that site. So we found this location, relocated the AFCEC Research Lab and Testing Center from that low-lying peninsula to higher ground. The lab was about 6 to 8 feet above sea level and experienced 4 to 6 feet of flooding within the buildings. We're now moving it to an area just north of Highway 98 that is an elevation of about 20 feet. In the process, we will consolidate a hodgepodge of the 20 buildings that were at the previous site into 4 primary facilities. This complex is designed to provide flexible, repurposable space. Yes, that is a word. As needed for research and testing, which will evolve requirements into the future. It also moves the whole complex a lot closer to the ground demolition range and airframe fire testing area. This, for orientation, this is very close to the road. Those of you that have spent significant emotional events at Silver Flag site, as I have, will recognize this site is just off of Highway 98 on the access to Silver Flag area. Okay, this is my summary slide for the master planning. I skipped past much of the robust process, but I believe the results hit the targets which General Goldfein identified when he asked us to develop Tyndall into the installation we need. We drive down total cost of ownership and maximize cost efficiency by leveraging those facility assets which we could save and incorporating them into the new plan. We kept the constricted real estate on the flight line for flight line functions and moved support functions to the support side. That's a key future mission capability. Give the Air Force decision space to bring in missions here when needed. And we incorporated modern campus planning and the ways people use different facilities into the campus layout. Draft final deliverables of this product are in review at the Air Force right now. This comment period will close next week, and our industry partner in this planning, this fast-paced planning journey, will drive these detailed products to completion at that point. In the next section after this, General Melanson will be discussing how we intend to apply innovation and technology across these campuses, and then I'll be back to talk through our acquisition strategy, what kinds of actions you can expect to see hit the street very soon. Thank you very much.